The holiday of holidays, Chuseok, the Korean Thanksgiving, along with New Year's are the biggest holidays. When it is Chuseok, there has to be songpyeon. More Than Kimchi will show you how to make songpyeon, Chuseok rice cakes. Duck, Korean rice cakes, are famous for their beauty. How many varieties are there, and how special are their shapes? Korean Food Story will tell you all about our beautiful duck. What is the origin and reason for making songpyeon at Chuseok? It is believed that if you make pretty songpyeon, you would have a pretty daughter. Songpyeon, are you ready to make some?
안녕하세요. Hello everyone, I'm Arirang. Thank you for joining us again on More Than Kimchi, where you can learn about the traditional recipes and stories of Korean cuisine. One of the most important Korean holidays is Chuseok, which is like the Thanksgiving Day in Korea. And the indispensable menu to celebrate Chuseok is songpyeon, the rice cakes filled with sesame seeds, various nuts, and honey. Before we go any further, shall we say hello to our cooking instructor, Mrs. 한복녀. 선생님 안녕하세요. 오늘도 잘 부탁드리겠습니다. We also have Sarah Hennapel with us, who will learn with us. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to learning how to make these. It's always been a mystery to me. What's inside them, and how do we put those ingredients inside them?
So today is your chance to find out how to make rice cake called songpyeon. So first, shall we take a look at the ingredients? And you know, song means pine trees. I will tell you more about that later. And it's a fall food. You will see the plentiful, all different kind of ingredients. So I'm going to start with the rice cake. This is just plain rice powder and salt that you make the skin, the rice cake part. And then you have pine needles. That's when you're going to use later when you steam them. So we'll learn that later. And for the skin, we're going to have 3 different colors: pink, green, and white. White is, of course, rice color. For pink color, you can use the food color. Or in old days, we used the inner bark of pine tree, which is called songi. And it's not that easy to get these days, so you can just use a little bit of red color. And this is suk. It's boiled, chopped suk. Suk is like a wild vegetable, and I will tell you more later. So this is the suk, fresh suk, which is a wild vegetable that we're going to use for the green color of the rice cake. And for stuffing, we have here soybean, white beans, sesame seeds, and this is the jujubes called daechu, and this is called the pam, which is chestnuts. So these will be the fillings, 5 different fillings. And for sweetness, we always use honey and then cinnamon powder. And later for glazing purpose, we're going to use sesame oil. So that's the ingredients. So let's start.
네. 그러면 우선 쌀가루를요 이쪽에 준비했는데요.
So we will start with the rice powder. This just is a plain rice powder. You can sometimes buy or you can prepare at home. So
we should be careful not to use our flour.
No, it's a rice powder.
It is rice
plain
powder.
rice powder. Right.
Okay.
이렇게 해서 넣고
반죽을 해야 되겠죠? We have to make the
뜨거운
dough.
물을 좀 주시면
Shall we get some?
되겠네요.
Get some hot water.
All right, we're going to add just a little hot
Yeah.
water.
How much shall we put? About half cup.
넣겠습니다. 근데
We'll
요거를
measure
저 가루를 빻으면 요런
Yeah.
체에다가 쳐야 되는데
이게 벌써 한
한
것이죠.
거죠. 그래서 소금을 넣어가지고
Right,
치시면 돼요.
You know, this is like, you make cake, when you make the cake, you use sieve for the salt
That's
and
right.
then flour.
You're right.
It's the same thing. This has been already used to sieve to
So
go
we have
through.
sifted it.
Yes,
okay.
already.
예, 뜨거운 물을
Yeah.
넣어가지고요.
And we are using, which is very important, you use hot water to make the dough.
Now, why is that?
Well, the reason is, we're going to steam later, and we don't want to break it apart as, while you're steaming. So if you use hot water, we call ikbanjuk, slightly cooked dough.
I see.
And that will prevent
It from
breaking
falling
falling
apart.
apart as you
Okay.
steam.
예,
Important.
색을 내려면 이 쑥을
Yeah.
삶아서 다진
Yeah.
걸 넣으면은
And this
색이
I'd
나죠.
like to show Sarah a little. Before I introduce to you as a wild vegetable, I want you to
What is
smell.
it?
It's called suk.
Oh, it smells
I know
so
you never
good.
seen where you're from. You
It
never
smells
have
like
that.
a flower.
And it looks like a chrysanthemum leaves, but it's
Yes.
called suk. And we not only use the flavor, for the purpose of flavor, but also the green color.
So we have to cook it first.
Right,
and
right.
then we mince and chop it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you parboil it and then you chop it first to take out the liquid.
All right.
So here we have 3 color rice cake, the green with the soup. The plain white color is just rice color, and this pinkish is what we used either with food color or this is the powder of inner bark of pine tree.
Of the pine tree,
Of the
yeah.
pine, so we have pink color over here. So Mrs. Han is making with the souk. So
She's
this
kneading.
is the first thing. Yes.
This is the difficult part.
So we will let her do it.
We'll let her do
더
it.
많이 주물러질수록
So these are already used, and it's important to
Okay,
do
continue
it for
to
long.
knead it
Yes.
like we're making any kind of dough. See, this show is hard work.
Yes.
이렇게 해서
But it
많이
feels good.
주물러줘야지 돼요.
So it's very important, this procedure, you do it for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
Like when you make bread, don't you have to
Sure,
do that?
when
It's
we're
the
making
same
bread
idea.
or pizza dough, it does take time and
That's
patience.
right.
예, 이렇게 해서 반죽을 한 덩어리 한 다음에
So 3 different
예,
colors.
이제 젖은 행주로
Yeah.
덮어 넣어서 기다립니다.
And before you make, you have to make sure to cover with the wet cloth so dough doesn't get dried. So we'll set it aside.
Do we have to prepare the dough ahead of time and let it sit for several hours?
You don't have to do it. The
You do
only
it right
reason
away.
we are putting aside is because we have to prepare the stuffings. And today we have 5 different kinds of stuffings, as I introduced you before. And these are prepared. I have here soybean, fresh soybean, fresh chopped chestnuts. These are chopped jujubes we call techu. And then these are cooked white beans and sesame seeds. And then we need to mix with the honey and the cinnamon powder.
All right.
그래서 이제 간을 해줘야
Yes.
되는데 여기는 소금을 좀 넣어주세요. 소금을
And
넣으셔서
for this fresh,
섞어주시면
soybeans, all you need to do is sprinkle a little bit of salt and mix it. That's it.
Okay.
And then
소금을 조금 넣어서 섞어 놓고요.
Just
여기는
salt.
섞어주시고.
And then you mix
We'll
it.
mix it
예,
together.
그다음에 이제 계피가루를
Yeah.
예,
For cinnamon powder, you are putting it in the jujubes, chopped jujubes, and chopped white beans. These white beans, by the way, are mashed, cooked white beans, not the fresh ones.
꿀을
Yeah.
넣어서 단맛에
About a tablespoon of
Yeah.
honey.
Uh-huh.
예,
Okay.
이렇게
Honey
해서
instead of sugar.
Instead of sugar,
Yes.
that's very important.
Yes. Honey is more nutritious too.
Yeah, and the flavor you can't quite match, by using sugar. So to making Korean rice cakes, we prefer, honey instead of sugar.
Did you know it's also easier to digest?
Is that right? Well, good thing there.
이거 좀
Shall we do it?
섞어주시겠어요?
Yeah.
하나.
So you will mix
Yeah,
the
sure.
jujubes. Those
섞어주시고요.
look kind of brownish, but it was
Yeah.
the chopped jujubes that I showed you before.
Because originally
These
they look
kinds.
red, reddish
Yes,
brown.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna mix this.
They
White
all
beans
smell
paste.
so good, and all these ingredients are so healthy
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to sort of Western desserts.
Right. So this can be used as a dessert or as a snack, but we don't really make it that sweet as your cookies or cakes.
네, 다 섞여졌죠? 그러면 이제 빚겠습니다.
Now stuffing is already 5 different kinds of stuffings are ready. It's the fun part now. We have to make the rice cakes.
Now the mystery unfolds. How do we do this?
선생님은
I'll use the white
하얀
one.
저는 쑥을 하겠습니다.
Right.
And I said 송편 송 means pine trees. The reason is not only you are using the the inner bark of pine trees, but also when we steam later, you're going to use the pine needles.
Okay.
And I'll show you later, and I'll tell you why we are using pine needles.
똑같은 크기로 만들어야 되니까
Yes.
예, 그렇게 안 하셔도 그냥 이렇게 떼 놓으세요. 우선 먼저.
So you make
얼마나 이렇게
the
만들
size
건가
that you want to.
All right. Sort of a
Make.
bite size. I think they normally are not
or
too big.
perhaps the whole chestnut size might be a
Or
good
chestnut
way.
size,
Yes.
okay.
예, 이렇게
And then you
예,
mix again.
그래서
All right.
예.
So we're going to
Right.
beat them again. More hard
이렇게
work.
하신 다음에 우선 둥글게
Okay, we need to roll
만드세요.
them.
Now I have to tell you,
Oh, what?
if you make a pretty shape and you're, unmarried woman,
Yes.
you will find a very nice husband.
But I'm a married
And
woman.
if you happen to marry and make a pretty songpyeon, you're gonna have a pretty girl next.
I-
So you have a choice there.
I think I'm going to have a boy next.
이렇게 하신 다음에
예.
저 안에다 소울을 채워 넣어야 되잖아.
예.
가운데 이렇게
아하.
엄지 손가락을 넣으신 다음에
See, you make a well with your finger,
Okay.
and there you're gonna put the stuffing.
우리는 우물을 판다
Yeah.
그랬죠?
So we do say you make a well.
All right,
With your fingertip.
remember, this is my first one. It is not as easy as it
Yeah.
looks.
넣으세요, 어느
And then
거든지.
you have 5 different kinds of stuffing.
Oh, so I
choice.
can
Any
choose and
fillings,
change and alternate.
Any fillings would be fine.
하시고
All
싶은
right,
거.
and just a
maybe
little in
service.
there.
Yeah.
So each one really is a surprise. Okay.
Chestnuts. Can we mix different fillings together?
네.
Can you do that?
네네.
You can also mix if you like, or you can just put one kind. Here I
Okay,
used fresh
combination.
pine nuts.
이렇게 넣으신 다음에 입을 이렇게
Okay.
아무리서
Okay. We
예.
pinch it together,
Yes.
and then we're
그렇게 한 다음에 여기를 꼭꼭
Okay.
눌러야죠. 조개 모양으로
Yeah.
만들죠.
And it's like a shell shape,
a
like
shell
clams
shape.
or
So we're
shell.
sort of pinching.
달이 보름달이 꽉 이렇게
예.
동글다른 뜻에서도
Ah,
이렇게
how come mine doesn't look
Yeah.
like Mrs.
No, it looks pretty
Hahn's?
good.
Okay, please, this is
This
my
also,
first one.
symbolize the full moon.
Oh.
Chuseok is the Thanksgiving Day, so full moon is important.
Okay, so we mold the rice cakes in the
Yes,
shape of this full
in the
moon.
full moon.
Okay.
And usually in Korea, before Chuseok, the whole family, sit together, you talk about all days and make this. This is a very nice family activity before the big holiday.
이제 지방에 따라서는 이 모양을 이렇게만
Yeah.
만들지
Oh,
않고
yeah.
그냥 이렇게 해서 손으로 꾹 눌러서 이렇게 자죽만 내서
Yeah.
하고
Cherry showed it to
예,
Sarah.
이렇게도
And the
하고.
shape of songpyeon really depends on the region. Some region up in north, they make this kind of shape, which is you press with your fingers and make a design.
I can do that. I can do that. So you're saying each province in
Each
Korea,
region, they
each
have
region has a different shape.
Yes, some are big, some are smaller. And where is this from?
네.
이게 어디에서 하는 거예요?
이거는 아래 경상도나 이런
경상도.
데서도 하고
예.
또는 이렇게 동그랗게도 만들어서
예.
해요. 근데 우리 북쪽 지방에서는 크게 만들어요.
아, 그래요?
네.
And also, if northern provinces, they usually make bigger than south.
Ah, okay. So we can tell where somebody's
Yeah.
from based on their. Well, mine
Based
still doesn't
on-
look. You can tell this
Wherever
one
you-
comes from the west.
Yes, okay.
Comes from the United States.
Okay.
Those
이렇게
are
해서 so here
beautiful.
we make all different kind of songpyeon here.
네,
Okay.
빚었는데요. 그러면 앉혀볼게요.
Yeah, so the next procedure is steaming, and I introduced you before the pine needles, and that's the reason we say songpyeon. Here we have pine needles,
네, 여기다 먼저
and we use
솔잎을
pine needles when we
깔아야
steam.
되겠죠?
So we place them on the bottom.
On the bottom, each layers you will just put those.
It's such an
spread it.
artistic use
Aren't they
of the
nice?
pine needles
Yes.
too. It looks so
Yeah.
beautiful. And of course we have lots of pine trees
Yes,
in
yes.
Korea.
And the reason you are using pine needles, there are two reasons. One is the aroma. Later you will see it's very nice to have this, pine needle smell. And another thing is by doing it, they don't stick to each other. So two important reasons we are using pine needles. Spray a little bit more.
이렇게.
Aren't they pretty?
Yes.
So that's how you will do before you steam.
And I'm very surprised about the color. I automatically assumed it was food coloring because that's what we would do,
Yeah.
very lazy way. But the origin was a fascinating story.
And sometimes if you want yellow color, you could use the tangerine liquid, or sometimes, there's a special Korean native fruit called omija, which is red color. So if you use the juice of omija, then you will have a red color too, a
Yes,
kind of
I
pinkish
think I've
color.
had the omija soup or
omija
the
hwachae, we call
yes,
it. Yeah,
the
the
drink.
punch. So
Yeah.
you can use different ingredients for different colors. So this is ready to
Great.
steam
네,
now.
그러면 여기 지금 미리
Yeah.
찐 게 있거든요.
Oh,
look
so this
at
is
that.
one we prepared before already steamed.
쪄지고 있어요.
How long do we steam them for?
얼마나 오랫동안 스팀을 하나요?
한 20분 내지 30분이요.
About 20 to
예.
30 minutes.
Okay.
이렇게 해서
Looks
넣고
very nice.
Beautiful.
There.
Such a great presentation.
So these are songpyeons. How do you like today's recipe?
I'm looking forward to trying
Try
it again
it.
as always.
And one more thing that we have to do is after you steam, you have to dip it in cold water.
Oh, really?
You sort
Why?
of rinse it so it won't stick to each other.
Okay.
And then one more step is you have to glaze them with the sesame oil.
Oh, that's why they're
Yes.
shiny. I've seen them
물속에다가
shiny.
집어넣어서
예, 그냥
할까요?
물에다 넣어서.
And another way you can of course do it is mix the sesame oil in water and then you dip them.
And then we're just going to place them in.
거를
rinse it.
솔잎이 떨어지죠.
So that way you can get rid of those, pine needles because they are now stuck together.
Right.
By rinsing it in cold water, you can take them apart and give additional aroma of sesame oil
Right, it comes
by
apart
mixing it in
easily.
water.
Can you eat them warm, or are they just traditionally eaten cold?
Well, traditionally, I think it's room temperature because you prepare in advance before Chuseok comes, and then you get to enjoy on Chuseok day.
And of course, a lot of these ingredients are on the traditional menu for a festival like Chuseok, the
Right.
chestnut, the
Yeah.
jujube.
Yeah.
We find this for festival time, right?
And also, it's the fall season for harvest time. So all the fresh beans and vegetables are just new crops. That's very important. You are using new rice, new beans, and new jujubes, and that kind of thing really gives you the fall idea. Just like your Thanksgiving Day, it's celebrating the new crop,
harvest,
the
right.
harvest. That's right.
그래서
And then you put a little bit of sesame oil. Smells wonderful.
Oh, it does. That nutty aroma
So
is
it
great.
gives not only the extra flavor or aroma of sesame oil, it also gives a nice shine to the rice cakes. I like the container too here for decorating.
So
Yes.
artistic.
Isn't that
Beautiful.
nice? How pretty. So let's review the whole procedure one more time before we get to eat.
Duck, Korean rice cakes, is an important part of Korean food. It is always included in the menu at holidays and special occasions. Duck is made with ground grain, which is made into dough and then steamed. It is different depending on how it is made, but it is also different depending on what kind of grain is used. Duck is divided into different varieties depending on what ingredients are used. Different duck can be made over the 4 seasons depending on the ingredients in season. Each different kind of duck has its origins and meaning to it. Different kinds of duck are made on different holidays. On New Year's Day, people make duckguk, and at Chuseok, songpyeon is made. Duck is divided into different kinds depending on how it is cooked. Frying duck is made by making the dough and then frying it in oil. Some examples are uchi-duck, hwajan, and chuak. An edible flower leaf is placed on top of hwajan. Chuak uses gardenia, dates, and laver to make it colorful. Duck that is pounded in a mortar for a long time is called pounding duck. Different shapes are cut from jolpyeon, also called duksal. Each shape contains the wish of Koreans. Pounding duck include jolpyeon, injeolmi, and kepi duck. Goat jolpyeon are made in the shape of a flower. It is so pretty, people enjoy just looking at it. Jolpyeon made with pine endodermis and mugwort give off a very traditional feeling. Goat injeolmi is made by putting dates on top, and injeolmi mari is made by rolling the dough. Injeolmi is made in different ways, and the taste is different depending on the ingredients. Such pounding duck are special because they are sticky and they use many different ingredients. Hobak charpyeon uses zucchini as a main ingredient and is a steaming duck. Steaming duck is made in one big piece. It is cut after steaming or served as a whole. Shiru duck is the most representative of steaming duck and is made with green lettuce or potatoes. Shaping duck is named this way because it is shaped with the hand. Gyeongdan is made from boiling dough and then covering it with soybean flour or sesame seeds. Dates, green laver, and sesame seeds are used for color. Up to 5 colors are used for a delicious and beautiful duck. The shiru, a steamer, was discovered as a relic from the prehistoric period, which tells us that duck has a very long history. The most basic kind of duck is shiru duck. It is made with ground white rice, and sometimes red beans are put on top. Duck cannot be left out of Korean life. It is always included at birth, 100 days after birth, weddings, 60th birthdays, and ancestral rites. The shape and taste of duck is different in each region. Kaesong Chuseok is made in Kaesong, Gyeonggi-do and is famous for its taste. It is made from ground white rice and sweet rice. Because makgeolli, raw rice wine, is put in the dough, it can be kept. As such, different cooking methods result in the different shapes and tastes of Korea's beautiful duck.
I hope you enjoy the story of traditional rice cakes. And here today we have songpyeon to celebrate Chuseok holiday. Let's start.
Great.
듭시다.
They
그죠?
look scrumptious.
Is that nice?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're all different shapes,
That's
as
right.
you told us before.
Some are
And
full moons and some are, I think that one is what you made over there, Sarah.
okay, so I'll try someone else's. Perhaps I'll try our green one.
Uh-huh. The green one is, as I mentioned, you use sook, the rice, the wild vegetable, to make the green color. And then I'm going to try the white color.
I think I got sesame seeds.
Is that right? I have beans, and so is Mrs. Han.
That's what makes them fun to eat, is the different fillings, and you
Right.
don't know what you're going to receive. Can you tell me about these other dishes we have
here
here?
we have punch called pesuk. Again, it's new harvest, pear. That's the idea. It's got sweet punch. And then here, this is called yullan. What it is, basically, you mash the cooked chestnut and then shape them back into the chestnuts.
I see.
So it's basically chestnut with those cinnamon powder.
Okay. And these all represent the crops or
That's right.
that we
Yeah.
find this time of year.
Yes, and especially with songpyeon, what's important is you are using new rice, fresh rice, and that way it really represents the idea of Thanksgiving, Chuseok.
So that's why we eat songpyeong during Chuseok.
That's right, and actually Koreans, before we eat, it's very important to present this during the ancestor ritual. Before anybody eats, we give to our ancestors.
We offer it to them first,
That's
and then,
right.
and then we enjoy it.
That's right. 그렇죠,
네,
선생님?
그렇죠.
Yeah.
예, 떡 잡수시면서
네.
이 파채도 드세요.
Yeah, so you can enjoy this. This is called pesuk, pear punch, with the rice cake.
배하고 생강
Yeah.
냄새나죠?
Oh,
And
delicious.
the base of this punch is 생강, which is ginger.
Ginger.
So you feel slight spice
Yes.
of the
How
spiciness
refreshing,
of the
and it's,
yes.
it's cool. It's not a hot
Yes, that's right.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Tell me about Chuseok. I've been here a couple years, and the date keeps on changing. I
That's
can't
right.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Explain.
You know, the Chuseok day is August 15th on the lunar calendar, not a regular calendar. That's why each year it's different.
I see.
So that's important. You have to know the lunar calendar. So it changes every
okay.
time.
That explains it.
Yeah. And it's one of the biggest holiday in Korea, it truly is. And everybody goes back to their own family. And the traffic gets bad. It's sort of like your Thanksgiving Day. I'm sure you have the same problem.
But that's what's so fascinating. I think many countries around the world celebrate some type of Thanksgiving or the harvest. And even though our food may change, I think the intent and the meaning behind Thanksgiving is universal.
That's
Getting
right.
together with
So-
family and friends and love and enjoying a good meal.
That's right. Let's try the yullan.
Sure,
So this is
okay.
called yullan.
Yurlan.
And basically it's all chestnut.
Okay.
선생님도 드십시오.
And
You can feel the powder, cinnamon powder and honey. You know, I have to tell you about the honey because we always prefer putting honey instead of sugar. And when things are good, we say 꿀맛. And it's not necessarily the taste. 꿀맛 literally means taste of honey, but not necessarily it's the taste of honey. Anything that's sweet, you say 꿀맛이에요.
and we say sweet as honey, which is a very
It's the same
positive
thing,
thing
right.
in English, yes.
Right.
And as you know, honey is better for you. It's more nutritious.
That's right, yes. Today we made one of the important food on the Chuseok menu called songpyeon, rice cakes filled with chestnuts, various nuts, and sesame seeds. I hope many of you will get a chance to taste more of the various rice cakes during your stay in Korea. Thank you, Mrs. Han and Sarah, for joining me today. And I hope many of you watching found this program helpful in your discovery of Korean cuisine. Please join us on our next show. And until then, 안녕히 계세요.